Right, guys, we have got Lacomzi back on the channel, and it's going to be another live sweat where Lacomzi is going to be playing some 100 For my viewers that don't know you, could you tell people a little bit about yourself?
My name is Lacomzi. My actual name is Alex, but my poker pseudonym is Lacomzi. I play about an ABI 80 MTTs online, so that if you see me looking a little bit out of my depth in the cash game streets, that is the reason why. But I got some Russian cash dollars in the GG promotion back in the day, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to get some advice from Dana on some deep stack play, an area which I think a lot of MTT players really neglect. And this one, I guess maybe you can fall bet a tiny bit, but probably more high card.
I just want the record to be known that my name isn't Boehner, so we just need to nip that one in the bud. It is Benner or Ben.
Benner.
For some reason, people like the thing that I've heard the most, which makes no sense to me, is people say Bean a bad beat. So it's kind of upsetting.
I mean, that if you say that, then I'm not gonna lie, there's not much help in you, I feel like, at that point in proceedings. Passive non-3 bet line selected due to immediately starting the recording. He checks back. I think I'm gonna be 40 a lot on this card. I think this is a hand class, which could definitely check. I think it would be kind of mixy because sometimes I guess you want him to stab like King Jack and Queen hands. This is pretty interesting. And he takes this line. I guess we go for check call versus like King Jack. I expect a lot King Jack, like Queen Jack type hands to bet the flop. Anyway, he just has the 7-6. I was tempted to block.
I definitely would block the river here. I think it's just the right play. I think it, like, maybe in theory you are meant to check sometimes, but I think exploitatively it's a really, really important bet to find. Because I just do think that they're much more middling, and obviously they have way less aces when you have an ace.
Because I guess the hands which I want him to bluff are often going to bet the flop, like start putting on pressure. So I guess there's actually less of that region there. Hand sizey, 3-bet. This is viewing it as somewhat of a value 3-bet, like wanting to play this hand in position. We're going to go for the 3-bet. We arrive to 7-6-5. On this kind of texture, I think I'm going to be doing a decent amount of small betting. I think people really struggle to find the right frequencies against very small bet sizings. It's quite hard to defend your range, particularly out position. Obviously, we have the 2 overs and the guttable. So we're going to just try and define the range a little bit by betting small. We get a call and we see the turn. 6 of hearts. He's going to check. How's he going to play flop sets? I think this is a pretty dicey card in general. I do think I'm going to check back and we can start doing some stuff at the river. I think turns, he's going to end up with a lot of 1 club high card hands to float. And then obviously he still has a lot of the very strongest hands in the range, namely the boats, which although I'm probably supposed to be 3-betting them at some frequency, I don't think I will, and I don't think we get so much credit for that. So now I'd rather d6-7, try and fold out some of the ace-x1 club hands. I could river a queen a decent amount. I think it would be a reasonable idea to be able to check bet a lot of value in this line. Obviously depends if he's the player type that's going to turn some hands into a bluff. Hands are trying to fold, but he is going to make the call with the jack.
Seems like I played the hand pretty well. So I guess the first thing I would want to say is you 3-bet more offsuit combos pre-flop than in position, than out of position is going to call pre-flop. Obviously they're going to 4-bet some suited hands pre-flop, like King 10 suited and those kind of combos, but you're going to have like the wealth of ace queen off, the wealth of ace king off. And I just do think you don't do super well, not only because it's a 3 flush board, but because it's like a low 3 flush board. So I would be looking to check this flop a lot. I do think with your specific hand, though, you can go both ways between betting and checking. I don't feel too strongly either way. As for turn, I really like your thought process. And then river, I would also just be looking to 2/3 the river. You don't have great blockers. I guess you do block a pocket 9s, pocket 10s with a club.
No.
But I think like you played your hand like very well here, I think. I just do think you're going to get underfolded on the river, though, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. It feels like one of those lines that guy's presumably a reg, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't. He's played his hand absolutely well. But yeah, I feel like some like recreational players may like overcall a lot, and then like I feel like it does look like a value-driven line to a lot of regs. This like bet check B67 Well, this is interesting. So he is check called on the 7-7 deuce, and honestly, I think exploitatively here, I'm just going to try and play for stacks. Stay exploitatively, it might be a reasonable thing to do in theory as well. I think he's going to check call some ace X and have a really hard time folding to 1-bet on the turn. People, I think, are a bit too sticky in these lines in general, so I'm not sure.
I'm a big fan. I mean, I do think you are like the bulk of the check calling range from out of position in these stakes is going to be ace high. I think that's just like a really, really fair assumption to make. And then obviously there will be some overcards, but I just also don't see these people checking enough out of position blind v blind on the 7-7-3 rainbow, you know. Like the 7-7-3 is a really, really bad board for out of position. So I'm just thinking they're going to be, check calling a load of ace highs and then just turbo c-betting some of their more middling holdings.
Again, I think this is like a reasonable 3-bet combo, but I'm a scared MTT player, so I'm going to peel. And we're up to 10-9-4. I expect to see some like B67, B80 kind of size. I don't know if that is accurate. Very interesting. He checks back. Here, I think you should use a bigger sizing, but I think his range is going to be too defined around like ace highs, and I want to force him to the river and a chance to make a top pair where I will go very, very, very big on the river. And also just forcing to the river the bluff catcher is good. I'm not worried about the flush completing here. I still think with how his range is actually going to look, I'm going to be limited in terms of bet size, but he still can see a lot of bluff, so I am going to go for this weird custom just under the pot size bet and hope to get some ace high here, of course, seeing the queen jack, seeing the jack eights of the world. I don't think I can go.
I'm a real fan of your line, and actually I think the turn sizing, obviously there is just going to be like so many sizes being used, right? But when they're meant to be polarizing the flop to some reasonable extent, I do think it makes some sense to depolarize the turn here. So I probably would be using the B40, maybe even the B33 as my main bet sizing on the turn there. I just think you do have a lot of middling strength, just does want to deny equity here. I'm a big fan. And River, I think what you said is so on point. I think you're meant to use a bigger sizing here, but you're so right that he's so limited in the calls in his range. So why would you go bigger here when you want to get called, you know?
Again, ace nine off is just not, it's not a great little hand. Oh, the big blind is very tight though. Gets snap peeled on the button. Probably not going to be a very strong and lots of pocket pairs and stuff. We get immediately binned.
Yeah, good decision though.
Would you always
No, I wouldn't, but depending on the blinds. I think even though the big blind was tight, the sample wasn't massive, and also there were clearly some regs behind, so I probably would still fold it, but I don't think you were like miles away from like the conditions by which opening ace nine would be like fine. So yeah, I'm not out of love with it. I just wanted to ask for those of you who don't, obviously you've just said that you play MTTs, but you also have a YouTube channel, right? How often are you posting on your YouTube channel, and what's the kind of the plan with the YouTube?
At the moment, videos are absolutely flying up, about 2 a week at the minute. It will, trust me, it will not stay there. Wow. So we have a recreational player overcalling. We get dominated kind of hard. I don't know. I feel five blinds pods are very good. We're going to get in there. Not a great flop. Yeah, we're posting about 2 times a week at the minute because we just had a sort of the WCoop CSOP and WSOP online festivals happening. So we were playing all of these, like grinding 6 days a week, and we had some really nice tournament runs. So we are uploading all of those on my YouTube channel. Which is called Lacomzi.
I'll be sure to link everything in the description.
And yeah, we're going to try and keep it going with like 1 a week. We have a run coming from the WSOP, not online, actual in Vegas run, where we were all in versus Martin Cabral, 30 left with 870k up top.
No spoilers.
So nice.
No spoilers. No spoilers. I gotta say, you definitely play as if you have a big blind ante involved, which to be honest with you is no fault of your own, because it is extremely unusual for you not to have a big blind ante involved when you're in the big blind. Am I right?
Yeah, it's just so painful, and I like, even when I say it there, like, I know it's wrong.
The guy was an 18 VPIP as well, so I'm gonna just recommend now you play a little bit tighter from the big blind, and also just bring you back to something you said. with the 10-8 of spades that you said, I'm going to be dominated so much here, and then you still call 10-8 suited. So definitely look to be folding hands that you know you're going to be dominated by. It seems like you know all these things, but you're just playing for the stream, aren't you? You're playing for the clicks.
Okay, yeah. I'll be more well behaved. King 8-3, ace 9 of diamonds. I think we're going to be just doing some like B40ing type stuff here. I think this is an okay combo. We get absolutely turboed on the flop, which is pretty scary. And then on a 7, like, I'm not really sure when we get turboed on the flop how many turn folds we're really going to get. Like, I feel like you get like a slightly slower call out of the like ace 10, ace jack, ace queens of the world. It's going to be like quite pocket parry and king X, so I'm just going to give up. And I have a bad hand, I think, to continue bluffing anyway. So
yeah, so just like a little kind of tip here is that like you just with the out of position c-bet here, you're going to be using like the high low boards and then the high low boards more than you are the king 8-3 kind of middling. But I still definitely don't think you're going to be range checking this board. So I would just use this board as a lower frequency bet than those other two boards personally.
So with a bigger sizing but lower.
I'd still use a third pot, but 40% is obviously fine.
Okay. Yeah, I took out my third pot button back in the day. Again, I think this one from the big blind, the ace king off, probably mainly going to be 3-betting, but I don't think calling is out of the question at this depth. This player seems to be relatively aggressive, raising quite a lot of hands. So against him, I'm going to be mainly erring towards the 3-bet.
Yeah, and I think in theory you're probably 3-betting about 70%, something like that.
Yeah, so for the viewers as well, in terms of my cash game experience, I was on a year abroad in Spain a couple of years back, kind of how I started my career, if you want to call it that.
It is a career.
And I played live cash for about 6 or 7 months or so over there, and actually did decently, but literally never learned any of the cash game things that you should learn because it was live cash games, and they were very, very, very soft indeed. Here with the ISOs, I like to just purely hand size like against recreational players, and I just want this pot to be slightly bigger than it is currently. 10-9-8, we've got a backdoor flush draw. I don't really want to bet, to be honest. I feel like his limp call range is probably going to be pretty connected to this board, and I don't really see a reason to start like nudging equity. Now we see snap check back. I think again we can just hand size. I think I'm going to just B40. He's going to have a lot of like jack X, ace jack X queen, maybe even like size up to half pot for that reason. And he's maybe going to think about betting like a 9 on the turn. He's just going to snap fold.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I think your hand is probably worth half pot, but I would still go smaller because I think the range is very weak. And also I still want them to call their underpairs, which they may do versus half pot. And actually, it doesn't really matter between those two sizes, but I like the decision to bet and to hand size as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I would have gone much smaller. Say it was like not the paired board on the turn where like I really want him to improve to an ace and like get a massive betting on the river. I would have gone like smaller, like make sure like you cannot fold
Sure, yeah,
an ace high hand here. But here I was sort of like, if you want to fold ace queen, ace jack, then that's all right. But yeah, the underpair region is probably a pretty important one to think about. We're going to see the Belarus 3-bet. I think this is a hand that can 4-bet sometimes, and I want to. And I think Belarus probably overdoes the 3-bet if they're anything like MTT. Sizing-wise, this seems all right-ish, maybe a little small.
I love how you say, and I want to.
I do.
That was the deciding factor.
Because ultimately, that is a lot of how people decide.
True.
What they're going to do. Oh, really?
He also wants to go,
I mean...
maximum punishment because you wanted to.
Do you 4-bet this hand ever? Is this...
King 7, I wouldn't, but like, again, it's not miles away and I'm okay with it sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably...
So is it just like the higher, like King 10 suited, King 9 suited?
Never really the suited, it's more of the offsuit. King 10 offsuit, King Jack offsuit, King Queen offsuit.
Okay.
Yep.
Why? So you're just because you want to peel the suited stuff?
Well, because they're 3-betting pretty polarized, and when you have these offsuit combos, you just naturally get a lot of the folds from the hands that you unblock, which is like the Jack 5 suited of the world, etc. And you also block the 5-bet shove range from like the pocket 10s and ace king and kings, etc.
Here on the turn, I want to go the biggest size that I think king, queen, king, jack will definitely still call. And then on the river, we're going to try and get max from 2-pair, like turn king sevens, and then like these ace 5 that checks back the flop. It's a shame.
So in this spot here versus what I presume to be a real named account and potentially a reg, I wouldn't decide to, on that basis, decide to go with the 2/3 pot, because this is quite clearly a bigger bet spot, I would assume. Like, you're not betting many hands. So probably would go for the bigger sizing, and with your hand, I would, probably just bet always.
See, check. I would expect this to be like a very heavy bet from the out position player. Like on 3-3-3, like we are both so mudded on this board. The most part, to use a technical term. I'm quite interested. I mean, at the minute, we just have a hand that has showdown. I think if I had a hand like Jack 10 suited, 10-9 suited, I would probably just be looking to bet. I mean, it's one of those spots where, like, I do think you could arguably get range folds, but we just have a hand that has showdown, and Ben had told me last week that to stop just ego bluffing everything when you've got showdown. I mean, and now like
you've done me kind of dirty there. It's fine to bluff showdown. It's not. It's just not fine. It's not fine to bluff every single time you get to the river.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So, here we're just gonna do some stupid small. But I don't really know like what we're really targeting. I guess like 5s and 6s.
Yeah, I mean, like, what else can you do here? You just have to raise your hand, and if you get some kind of hero call, then so be it. And if not, which is probably gonna happen a lot.
The 0 bluff spot.
Yeah, mate, we've pretty much had an interesting hand like almost every single pot you've played, by the way.
And I've won like about like 25% of them. And the real reason I snap deleted the footage from last week is because I lost about 5 buy-ins.
It was so grim.
Here we're just going to start with... I definitely bet like 5 6s. This is weird. Like, you want to prioritize betting the lower pairs in general, I think. And maybe without a diamond, like, this is just too dicey to start betting on the flop. But I think like pretty disconnected, and people will still probably overfold the overs and like connected stuff around it. And then on the turn, I don't really think we have much choice to check. Our opponent's got a lot of flushes. And if he checks back, like, we're still just gonna have showdown against like 6 and 7s, and we can just fold turn there, I think.
Yeah, I think you rightly identify where you want to start betting some other lower pairs. But in this exact situation, when you've been cold called from the recreational, you probably do want to bet some of the higher pairs because they are just going to call the under pairs.
Yeah.
So, like, if this was maybe like configuration where you're playing 3 regs, which, by the way, you probably just don't see bet if you're playing 3 regs here ever. This is something that I did in a study session yesterday, just how incredibly passive, even as the pre-flop raiser, you are on these like paired boards where you think the board is very dry and you do really well. You actually get super screwed, mainly versus the in-position cold caller, because they don't cold call like offsuit hands, whereas we open them.
Here, I think you can go both ways again. In 3-betting call. Yeah, I would expect it to be a higher bet than that. But I think if I was in position, I'd expect it to be overstabbed. So it's
fair, yeah. It kind of goes both ways, but yeah, in theory, you're just checking.
Oh, already ugly. We have a hand that's definitely going to call 15-5, running cold, so maybe he's a little bit tilted.
Ace on the flop. Ace. No.
7-5-4.
I was hoping for the Barbie Jack
flop.
Barbie jackpot for the boys.
Oh yeah, true.
You've always got to think about.
I've never really understood BBJs. Okay, so we see him check 7-5-4, which he should sometimes, I suppose. I think this hand we just want to bet. We're going to be one of the first bets. Like, obviously has pretty thick value, as I've heard on the it's a term that I've heard from these cash game players, and then obviously want to deny.
Honestly, versus a 16 VPIP or 15 VPIP, I can't quite see what it is. I don't think this is as thick as you want it to be to bet 40%, if I'm truly honest. I think your hand is worth 40, but I think in the configuration and in the pool and in that villain's world, your hand is probably worth B25. So that's probably what I would do.
Okay, yeah. Do you think you get the same sort of protection benefits against the ace queen, ace kings? I guess if their range is that defined, you're not really worried. You can just play perfectly on future streets.
And also, like, they will check aces sometimes on the flop. So, like, you either get them to raise you with aces and lose 25% of the pot because that player type is not going to be check raising the flop anywhere near to the amount that would mean you'd want to continue.
We're going to be peeling this one, and we arrive to 9-5 This is some kind of streamer, I suppose. Has some kind of idea what's going on, but obviously not a super reg banner because, as we know, anyone who makes content, why would they be doing it? It's
true.
There you go.
That YouTube money is so juicy.
Yeah. Here I'm going to check, and I'm going to be very like suspicious versus like betting lines. Not suspicious. I just think a lot of his like Queen X, particularly Queen X backdoor flush draw stuff, which has to be any suited hand here. Yeah, I have like a bad hand to call, but like I feel like this node is going to be like overfolded so much, and like a reg is going to know that, and like he can bet a lot of his like Queen X type hands. Obviously now we're just dead. We're just stone dead. King Jack, King 10 going to be a big part of this overbetting situation. I do think Jack 10 he probably bets a lot on the flop. It's kind of a weird spot. I mean, now this is the classic, by the way. This is the classic. They've just rivered a hand. Like there's the overbet turn and then the size down river. It's like I'd wager a good amount of money as King Jack or King 10 in this spot.
You're right that they probably are quite incentivized to start bluffing this turn quite wide, and you're right that they're probably going to front door a lot of their Queen Jack, Queen 10 on the flop, and I don't disagree with that. However, kind of what we've already talked about, not this video necessarily, but the last one, is like your visibility with pocket fours there is so incredibly bad, and visibility, for those who are watching who don't know what that means, it means just because you may think that you are good on aggregate enough on the turn, then have a plus EV call based on the fact that they're going to be very equity driven when they bet the turn for this overbet sizing. So not only do you need to have the best hand, you also need to not get bluffed or barreled on like so many of the deck, which is clearly going to be awful for pocket fours. There are like no good rivers for pocket fours. The other thing is that when they use the overbet on the turn, that is telling us that they were probably hyperpolarizing the flop as well.
I do completely agree with what you're saying. I was like tagging with that. I do think it was like very close from my perspective. I
guess my question for you is, what, and maybe you can't answer this, like what EV does your hand have versus overbet in theory?
Yeah, probably losing like 0.5 of a blind or something.
It's losing a decent amount, right? First things first, you have established that you think in theory you're probably losing money by calling the turn in theory. Do you think that this player finds the appropriate check back? Oh, these are all obviously questions that are very hard to answer. Do you think that the player finds the appropriate check backs on the flop? So I'm talking about like hands like the one you block, like ace 4, for example. Do you think they're finding checks with these hands ever?
I think this region, the specifically the ace high gut shot region, I can see finding check backs. And then I see him overdoing. So like from looking at MTT sims in a similar spot, like the Queen Jack suited, King Queen suited stuff on the flop is actually very like mixy. You're supposed to check it back at some frequency. And from how I've seen regs play in MTTs at least, they're just like funneling money in with these hands like pure. And so when I see the queen and when I see this sizing and how I imagine a reg is going to interpret the spot, I think like he's going to be really over the top with bluffs and undervaluing to a point where I feel like I can make it a plus EV turn call, even though we have very low visibility. But I also think he's got a pretty defined range with which he's bluffing. Like it's pretty obvious I can fold on a king. It's pretty obvious. I can't remember exactly the board now. Yeah. And like then he'll just overdo it on like an ace and like low cards. Like he's in a spot whether he wants to bluff or not. I feel like I can make it a profitable turn call, but I see why it's very close and I see why it's pretty dicey.
Yeah, I guess what I would say to you is that like when I see the turn overbet, like I now work backwards a little bit, and now I assume that when they've used this turn overbet, which I want to say this might be wrong and the wrong assumption and a projection, but I would now assume that they were using massive bets on the flop and they are retaining this kind of like polarized approach. So when they don't use this massive bet on the flop and they do use a massive bet on the turn, I believe that suggests that they probably have checked back some marginal to medium strength hands on the flop. However, I don't know what that means about their turn barreling. I just think that when I see very big bet and I have two blockers that are really, really bad with visibility very poor and half the deck, which I don't want to see. Admittedly, now that you're saying it, I think that there aren't as many bad rivers as maybe I was given credit for, because like any card below a 9 is actually like a reasonable bluff catching card for you. And I think it's very fair to say that his range is like king, queen plus, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, I can be convinced that maybe the turn call is not as bad as I first thought, but I think it's very, very interesting. Mate, it's literally every single hand there's a hand. Last time we had like one hand every like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's all right. We can keep talking whilst I dust the stack to Paco Poker.
No, let's just watch it. Give me a
42 VPEP, 42.9 over a decent sample. I think we have powerful suits. I think I want to just bet. I don't really know on the sizings on these low ped boards. Maybe it is actually more of a size up to like half pot kind of ideas. It's a problem for me if he starts raising like 7s and 8s, which this player type might. That's a real shame. Can't continue this.
I think it's kind of close actually continuing on the flop. I think that this is going to be quite bluff heavy, mainly because it's quite hard for them to make a hand on 6-6-5. And especially we have a spade and a club. So I probably would fold, but I would be super, super, super curious here. Like I could see myself having ace 10 of hearts here and like just not folding. Yeah. I'm not a massive believer, to be honest with you, but you're kind of handcuffed with king high. If it was a smaller raise, I might have called. I would say, though, I would also have gone 1/3 against that particular player type on the flop to get a bit more range-defining qualities. Yeah. But I think the theory is, as you said, like at least half pot.
This guy's going to stab like super, super aggressively on this turn, which I think is good, you know. And then the river is an 8. Is he going to bet 8x for the size? He just snap bets like just on the pot. This like sucks. This really sucks. It's a spot. Oh, it's a horrible situation. But I'm going to get shown a better hand, honestly. I really do. I feel like you're going to tell me to call.
No. I refuse to believe the snap bet here can be a bluff. I refuse to believe it. It's like too... You'd be thinking about it, whether or not you want to bluff king, club, jack, or whatever it is here, I believe. I think it's a bit unintuitive to snap bet 2/3 pot, which is like the supreme value sizing as well. Would also fold.
Yeah. We're just going to 4-bet. I suppose if he jams, we're just going to get stacked, which is fun. 3x. Just under 3x, something like that. Maybe you're supposed to go a little bigger than this. The big blind. Question
for you here. If this was under the gun, let's say it was a rego opened under the gun, then the cutoff 3-bet, and then you cold 4-bet ace king off, and then under the gun shoved, what would you do? Would you call or would you fold?
I think you have to fold in that particular.
Yeah, because that wasn't far off, that dynamic actually.
Yeah.
So I was curious.
Is there any chance we see you in any kind of MTT streets?
There is some chances that I will play the occasional live MTT once or twice a year. The way I see it, it's a matter of time before I bink one for $1 million, right? That's how it works.
Exactly. That is exactly how it works.
Does that tilt the MTT community where like some cash game reg just plays the main event once in a while and then seems to always bang it off?
I don't mind it. It's the attitude that comes with it, which is the problem. There's a guy that's like really funny. So I've been playing this like 6 max series in Spain, like really fun tournament series, and there's this like cash game reg, like Spanish cash reg, like pretty good, and he's like rolled up like twice and like won the tournament both times, and he's just always like trying to like tilt all the MTT players. It's very funny, like a lower ABI, and the coaches were like in that same ABI. I'm gonna call her in that same ABI like 2 years ago, and like from Pads' previous CFP, and they're like very, very good. Know exactly like how to beat the stakes, and
to be honest, mate, like for as far as I understand it, like the way I perceive Pads is like you couldn't be in a better spot for having a successful career if you have Pads as one of your mentors. Like I honestly fully believe that. So that's really sick.
I mean, I love Pads so much. He's top of the MTT game.
Yeah,
really. And the other coach in there are great, like European and Elmerix. And I don't know how much you know about these guys. I think we have to fold. That's a big size. Yeah.
This A7 feels very close. I think you're probably meant to call ace-9. A7 seems close. I think it's a mix in theory, but I probably would fold. I'm really on the cusp with that exact hand, which tells me it probably is indifferent in theory or close to it. Or maybe I'm just wrong.
Things in my mind. I'm going to raise this tight into a tight big blind. Also, it's like very pretty hand, and it seems fun.
Yeah, come on. 5-4 suited. We're not here to fold 5-4 suited, are we?
No.
We'll try.
What a flop that is. Look at these snap checks. I'm going to do something a bit weirder. We're going to I've experimented with some one big blinding in the MTT streets to define ranges. We're going to... What? How has he ever had in the snap check load? That's a shame. I think it's
another honestly really well played hand. I actually would go slightly bigger. And the reason I'm doing that, I'm only going to go 1.5 big blinds as opposed to the 1, which is what you did, is because I think you get more benefit, more credit on the river when you use a gigantic size after you've gone 1.5 on the turn rather than the 1. I think the 1 is so bait. It's so bait that it's just so obvious you're then going to go 20x pot on the river or whatever. So I'd want to size up a little bit that you also double up as not enticing a check raise as much. So, I mean, yeah, it's very, very marginal either way, but that's how I'd approach it.
Yeah, it feels a bit more disrespectful, doesn't it? Like people maybe have a bit more of an emotional reaction.
Exactly.
On big blind.
Yeah.
But if you do end up playing one of these MTT sessions, or like a live tournament, you have a deep run. Please, I would love to get in there for a little review.
Okay, for sure. Okay, right, booked. I booked it in.
Nice.
As soon as I have one, I will get
9-8. Fives with a spade. Is this like a barrel off candidate? I'm gonna fire it off. Fives with a spade feels like a nice region to pull some bluffs from, but I don't really know in the blind be blind setup. This is what you want to do. Okay. Well, problem.
Really not a fan of using this combo as a bluff, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You just have so many hands to choose from, like 10 deuce suited, queen deuce, jack 4. And you're also probably meant to be polarizing the flop a little bit more than you were with the half pot. I think the half pot is totally fine, but I'd want to start going with the 2/3 pot at least, and then going like a king X plus. Fives kind of is in that real middle marginal region where you just need to check it, I feel.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm just probably getting a little bit confused about different setups where you have less bluffs to pull from, and that's why it takes the...
But I mean,
the sort of underpair region.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I think in the blind v blind, and this is a really good example actually, because you talked about the blind v blind as where you need to do more work. I think it's really important to think about the width of your landing range, and the width of your landing range is so incredibly diverse. So yeah, if you think about the width of your landing range, and then almost think of that in GTO Wizard or Pio, where it has the equity lines or the scatter graph of all of the hands in your range. Where do you think pocket fives are going to land between a 0 and 100 there? It's probably going to be somewhere in the region of actually, funnily enough, probably 55 to 60, right? If you think about all of your top pairs and second pairs and that kind of thing as well. So I would imagine that if you're going to polarize the flop here, you're going to be wanting to choose those kind of bottom 25s with some kind of redraw, like the 10 deuces, and then you're going to be wanting to use the top 30-ish, I would guess, and then everything in between just won't get touched.
Yeah, definitely have a lot of lower points in my range to pull from. 2 questions that were in my mind, because this is why I decided to bluff. Definitely not saying that I think it's good by any means. But the 2 things I was thinking was, do you think he will sort of be appropriately checking the flop? He did have a check raise in this spot, but I think people tend to be pretty vulnerable to triple barrels, checking these spots. People get too bet heavy with their value. And the second thing is even though fives is sort of higher percentile of your range now, how often do you actually end up winning the pot here with fives?
See, I think that is a dangerous process to have. How often do I win this hand? Because
such a wrecky phrase.
Well, it's not so much that, it's more that like your pocket fives do show down for EV in the check line. There's just no way that it doesn't. And choosing to then bluff your hand on the flop, especially when they do have some check raises, which like if we can assume that no one ever has enough check raises, etc., like it's almost immediately debunked if we use this results oriented thinking, which is like they have check raised you on this board. You just, I don't think you probably do make EV tripling this one off, I would guess, against pool, but you could then use that logic for every single spot where people are overfolding and you're using MDA. And as soon as people cotton onto that, then you're just dust, right? But in an isolated hand like this, I couldn't make a good argument why you couldn't do it. I'm just thinking not in less of a vacuum, I guess.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I definitely didn't really know about the combo section. I thought with like these hands like 10 deuce, it's like less good to start firing off because like you're just, when you improve, like have you even really improved? And then
well, it's less about improval and it's more about like your unblocking folds. When you start like betting flop and turn, like they're going to be folding a bunch of ace highs. They're even going to be folding some second and third pairs. They maybe are like, who knows what they're doing on the flop, whether or not they're polarizing or not. Just you are playing a polarized approach on the king 8-9. So you just, based on that alone, you just don't have to choose from these kind of middling strength combos that realize equity in other ways, which is checking down most of the time.
Okay, so would you check back like ace-9 hands?
I think the bottom of my betting range would be like, king sometimes, and I think ace-9 would be a theory mix. I probably would do it versus some players. Versus an unknown, I would never do it.
Okay, nice. And I guess final like theoretical question on that one. Where do you think is sort of check raise like starts and ends there? Because I was thinking about like kind of subconsciously before I was betting, like can he like check raise ace king really? Like it feels
definitely
even out position king 9-8 flush draw feels like dicey.
I mean, it's potentially dicey, but like if you have ace king with a spade, for example, and you're blocking the continues, you could absolutely check raise this combo. I don't see why you can't. I imagine the line is probably going to be more around the king 10 king jack region, just to ensure that you do not have like turbo plus EV just bets on the flop. So I think any king, probably any reasonable king with a redraw to the king 9 would be within the realms of check raising in theory, I would guess. But I'd like to look at it.
Well, I think that says it's like the same error that's causing both parts of like me not understanding the betting tree here really is like the width of the range. Like I guess ace king is just going to be very, very, very high EV check raise if you have all of the king X suited here.
And also don't forget that you only went half on the flop, so even more so these combos become raising. Like you can now probably assume you can check raise king 10 no spade versus half pot. So like, but then versus what I'm talking about, which is the 2/3 pot, perhaps it gets a little bit narrower the raising range. But yeah, somewhere in that region.
Yeah, very interesting.
Awesome, mate. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the channel. Let's hope the audio is all good on both of our ends, and we will have this uploaded as soon as possible. For those of you who don't know, we did a video together on your channel, and that is going to be uploaded soon, or are you waiting for this video to go up?
It's ready to go, so at the same time as this one goes up.
So we'll be sure to let everyone know about that video, and I will post it in the comments below. But until next time,
amazing.
Take care, and we will see you at the tables.
Thank you very much for having me.